Welcome to the Infinite Endurance Podcast. I'm your host, Philip J. Sebastiani, and on today's episode, I have Senior Race Director for Texas Outlaw Running, Asher Hamlin. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing pretty well. I am enjoying a week off, but next week's gonna be a big week. So yeah, doing the things. It's good though.
Yeah, so Asher is coming on today's episode to be the first in a series of pre-race episodes about the Big Texas Ultra 100K Championship, fathered by Texas Outlaw Running, the only one of its kind in the state of Texas, and where you have a qualifying race and then a championship later in this season.
Yep.
So real
Um,
excited.
yeah, super excited. This year has been a special one for me, and notably because I've been able to. This is the first year that I've been in all four of the qualifying races. So like I've seen, the guys and gals that have been at multiple and have placed well at multiple. So that's been really cool. But then I've also seen a lot of new faces and new people to the running scene also do well at sometimes their first ultra, which has been cool. And I think that's why it is such a unique series because Texas Outlaw is sort of in this space right now where we're not necessarily um, the biggest race company by numbers yet, but we still bring in some like pretty decent talent from around the state. And then that makes for a fun Big Texas Ultra Championships, which is what's going down this next weekend. So it's fun.
So is this the third year of the championship? Is that correct?
This is the third year. Yes, you're correct. Actually, this is the
Third.
third year with all four regions represented because that first year we didn't have, I believe, a North Texas Ultra. Um, so when Briston did the series for the first time, I believe in 2022, we only had the East, West, and South Texas Ultras. Um, so now we have all four regions, and we've had all four regions for the past 3 years, I believe, and I could totally be misrepresenting us. But anyways, um, yeah, it's been a pretty short-lived series, but it's growing, and we can just tell by the numbers that we're consistently getting at races, which is obviously a lot of fun.
Let's run through the gamut of qualifying races, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Kind of which one it is, what's the distance per race, where that one is,
yeah,
all
yeah.
that stuff.
So first in the series in February of this year, we had the North Texas Ultra, and that's up in Jacksboro, which is just like northwest, I believe, of Dallas, or maybe directly west of like Dallas Fort Worth. And it's at a cool little spot. Uh, Philip, I believe you have run there and won uh, a race before. Um, so yeah, the qualifying distance there is 100K, which is four out and backs on a 25K like out and back. So that one's pretty fun. It's a good start to the year because a lot of people aren't necessarily in their peak ultra distance fitness yet. So it being so flat and fast makes it good uh, for like, early season confidence building. And then it does garner a lot of participation from just the surrounding communities and Dallas Fort Worth, which is a lot of fun. So I think this year we saw like 300 people or so. And I will say it is a time of year that, I mean, as with Texas all the time, it's a time of year where it can either be a ridiculously hot weather race or it can be ridiculously cold and windy. So this year was so odd. At the beginning of the race, it was pretty cold, and then it warmed up significantly during the day. And I want to say we topped out at like 80, 85. So it got pretty warm. And then it dipped down and it got super windy into the night hours. And literally by the end of the night, from 80 at the high, and I think I was wearing a tank top, it was down to like 30 with the wind chill, and the wind was just going absolutely insane to the point where I had to take down the finish line. So yeah, that's a fun one. Um, had some really good participation from the community at large. I know I saw uh, a couple from the High Plains Elite crew come out, so that was always fun. It's always a blast. Mr. Mott, right? He uh
Yeah.
he got one of the spots. So yeah, for those of you that might not know, the way that we do the series or the way that we do the qualifiers is top seven, male and female, from each of the respective regions get a qualifying ticket to the Big Texas Championship, which is held in November, usually mid-November. So like this year, it's going to be November 15th is when the 100K takes off. So yeah, that's sort of North Texas. Anything you want to add on that? I know you were there and kind of helping out.
Yeah, it is definitely one of my favorite races for early season testing. I've only
Yeah.
ever done the 50K there.
Okay.
And it's yeah, like you've said, flat, fast, and the wind tends to blow in one of the two directions. So you either get it on the out or you get it on the back,
Yeah.
and you deal with it. But yeah, I think my first year I ran it was actually when it was still in the fall, and it
Okay.
was just
Cool.
super super hot.
Yes.
And
So
then it was
that's
really
the
cold
year
the
of
next year,
note.
and then yeah, then the next year was really cold, and then this last time I didn't run, I was just there. Yeah, it was really hot. But
Yeah, it's hot again.
speaking of really cold races, West Texas Ultra this year. Let's move on
Yep.
to that one.
Yeah. So
That
West
was
Texas.
unique.
Yes, it was West Texas. We typically hold it in April in oh my gosh, remind me of the trailway.
Lake Meredith National
Yeah,
or Park. Yeah,
yeah,
something
I
like
think
that.
it's Lake Meredith. So Lake Meredith uh is I have actually never been there because this year, leading up to the race, and I think Briston and I actually did a podcast on this, kind of around the time that it happened in April. But the West Texas is a 50 miler qualifier. Um, so this year, rolling into the race, about 2 weeks out, we saw that it was going to be pretty bad weather on race day, and we didn't know what it was going to be. It looked like it was dipping down into the 30s with a lot of rain. And Lake Meredith, they got with us. The park rangers got with us a little bit, whenever the bad weather started becoming evident, and they were like, "Hey, we don't think we're going to allow you to, or we don't think we're going to be able to host you um, on our trails because of the bad weather." And so it's kind of a non-negotiable that the qualifier races have to happen because, or at least they have to happen on the date, just because we have so much else going on the schedule that it's not really, there's not a lot of places on the calendar that we can move these races in general. So immediately, uh, I start going into finding new race venues and getting with my West Texas people, namely Philip and some others, and we are kind of scrambling and having to re-coordinate all these runners. Anyways, the only venue that would allow us to host the race in such conditions was this little tiny venue outside of Canyon, Texas, which is called, I don't remember,
Yeah, Buffalo Hill.
Buffalo
Yeah.
Hill of all places. Yeah. So Buffalo Hill came in clutch, which I guess is owned by the city. And then for so West Texas, the original location and the original setup, we had sold out and at 300 people, And so I knew that I needed to secure parking for at least, I knew people were probably going to drop, so I knew I needed to secure parking for at least 200 people. This is all just like uh, boring race director have to do's. But I got with the school district of Canyon, and they were nice enough to allow us to use the uh, parking for the football stadium across the street, which is really
Mhm.
cool. Um, so the wildest race ever. So me and my wife, Mackenzie, we show up to Canyon day before, or a couple days before. The day before the race, it was gorgeous, like literally 70 degrees, sunny, breezy. It was like the perfect spring day. Everything was starting to get green, and we're like, wow, maybe it won't be so bad after all. So we set up, and race morning rolls around, and I think we probably got up at like 4 or something because the start of the ultra was at 6. Uh, and it turned into a blizzard in no time. So for those of you who were there, you know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who weren't, I'll describe it as literally, um, it was a snowstorm, like a full-on snowstorm rolled off the Rockies into West Texas and just took over for a day. So, uh, we had this is what's so fun about the qualifiers is, and with something like that is it's always a treat to see who shows up and who like deals with the elements, regardless of what they are. It was obviously a horrible weather day. By by no means do we expect so many people to show up, but people still showed up and showed out, and made it a super fun day. Um, for about half the day, I probably had like 4 or 5 layers on, and the wind chill got down to the negatives, right? And
Oh yeah.
I had failed to bring sunglasses. Well, I started seeing these runners running around in ski goggles. I was like, golly, dude, that's the smartest thing. So yeah, just an interesting change of venue, but we still made it happen. So the course went from, I believe it was like a 15-mile out and back normally to um, a little 10K figure eight loop. So it was definitely a little different, but we made it happen. Um, people still qualified. I think we still had seven guys at least in the. Oh, the other thing about this year was we reduced the longest distance from 50 miler to 50K, which I think hurt some people's feelings, but um, being out there for an extra 20 miles would have been a lot for us and then for all the volunteers involved and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And I think we erred on the side of safety at the end of the day. Although the weather did chill out, which was nice. Uh, so yeah, that was West Texas. I mean, you got anything to add? We stayed at your house. That was cool.
Yeah. Always welcome.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was really awesome for me to just watch too. A lot of the grit came out that day for a lot of folks because the hard thing with 5, 10K loops is that you could quit at any point in 6 miles from now.
yeah,
And you could, and I remember we had a little shelter. I think you guys lost a canopy that day
we did
too.
lose a tent. Yep,
Yeah, the West Texas wind is unwavering.
yeah,
It's hard to beat it. But yeah, just really great day. And I don't know if you want to share this, but I hear rumors that there's going to be a new venue in the future for the West Texas
yeah.
Ultra. Is that?
Well, so we um, so I've been trying to get Lake Merritt secured for a couple months now, but we just been bouncing back and forth for various reasons. And then, most notably, with the government shutdown, all the national, forests and rivers and lakes and parks, they aren't putting permits through. And so it's like I could submit things, but nothing's guaranteed. Um, and I think just with the way that I don't want to say the way that we were treated, but like I don't know. We want to find venues for our races like that where there's, the date is non-negotiable, where it's going to take um a bad weather day worse than that to shut us down. And so those are few and far between, but we're confident that we could probably find a ranch or something out in West Texas that'll allow us to do a similar race. So yeah, it's in the works, and we just gotta figure it out. Nothing's for sure yet, but I think Lake Meredith. One thing Bristol likes about Lake Meredith is its beauty, which it is beautiful. I've never been there personally, but from what I've seen, it is beautiful. So I think that's one thing that we're still looking for is another place that would host us with a similar amount of beauty, which, you know, might be out there. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so West Texas Ultra 2026 is to be determined. And
TBD. Yep,
yeah, but there's so much to pick from, and I'm excited to see whatever y'all decide on.
me
All
too.
right. So, changing gears to the East Texas Ultra. This year we actually had some High Plains Elite venture all the way over there because for us
Yeah.
it's like a 9 hour drive, 8 hour drive. And that where is that one and what time of year is that one?
So that is Lake Bob Sandlin State Park, and usually that's like early to mid-May. So right when the East Texas heat is kicking up and it's starting to get humid. So that's an interesting, all of our May races are interesting because most people are coming out of their spring training into summer and nobody's really heat acclimated. So East Texas has always been a test for a lot of our runners who may not have like had the opportunity to train. So like for example, you guys that were coming out from West Texas, y'all are largely dealing with just the dry heat up until that point, if it's hot at all. And so to be thrown into an environment where literally race morning can be 95% humidity and like 100-degree dew point is pretty insane, right? Like literally, um, like I think if it if that race, if the trail itself were any longer than a 7K, it'd probably be pretty dangerous that we weren't seeing people for that long because people would just they'll fall out and you wouldn't even know in that type of heat. So yeah, but yeah, this year we held it. I don't remember the specific date. I think it was like mid-May. Um, and that's a fun venue for us because it is such a small loop. And so, we get to see a lot of runners throughout the weekend, a lot of times. So like the 50K, for example, that's I think it's a 7K. Um, but that's like 8 loops, right? So getting to see the runners that many times makes it fun for us, but it also makes it a good spectator event. And the one thing that limits us there is the amount of parking. So actually, speaking of venue changes, we think that potentially the East Texas will be moved to a new venue this in 2026 too, just because breaking the races up across 2 days works, but ideally we would still be able to do everything just in one day. Um, so yeah, we're thinking about it. That one was a fun one. We had an influencer type come out to that race, and he sort of did a mini documentary on himself. Um, did some content with us, and he qualified for the Big Texas Ultra. I think he got beat by 2 people. I know there was a
Well,
a really fast girl and then another guy, right? Thinking about that, right?
mhm.
Yep. And I don't know if you remember this, but the guy that won, that was his first ever ultra, and he like freaking crushed it. Uh, so that was fun to see. Um, Another little fun note, the guy who I'm talking about who like did the collab with us, does the influencing, he was en route to in training for the most number of golf holes played in 24 hours. And so it was cool. It's like we were part of his training, and then later in the summer, sure enough, he set that world record pretty handily, and so that was fun, getting to see him out there. Um,
Well, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, um, East Texas was actually one of the first races we did in 2021, and that's when it wasn't part of the big series. And so I think in 2022 was when we added in a bunch of the races that you see now, like the North and West Texas Ultras, and then eventually the South or whatever combination it was. But yeah, this year it was pretty dang hot, and that's just sort of what's expected there at that time of year. Uh, but it was fun. This is also the first year that we broke it up across 2 days. So we did the 50 and 28K on Saturday, and then we did the 7 and 14K on Sunday. So that was an interesting little experiment.
Yeah, more great news. You heard it here first. It seems like the East Texas Ultra is going to have a new home.
Yeah.
And man, I remember Chris and Aaron, they went down there and they were like
Yes.
just sitting around their tent and they were like, man, this is not going to be fun. I think they both threw up during their races
Probably.
just from overheating.
Yeah.
But
I remember seeing Aaron at one point, and he just did not look like he was having fun. And it's hard for me as a race director to sort of sit by and accept that because it's like my natural inclination is that I want everybody to have the most fun possible. But when it's conditions like that and you're just not like I've been there for sure, where it's like you're coming out of a dry spring and then all of a sudden you get this wave of humidity and you're running in it, and that's just the worst. Like you're not acclimated and there's nothing you can really do because acclimation takes time. So to be thrown
hmm
into that environment and then to try and race in it is something that I'm sure is not enjoyable at all.
yeah, so as the series progresses, you get the summer off and then we venture pretty far down south for the
Yeah.
South Texas Ultra. So where and when is that one?
So the South Texas Ultra pretty much just happened. Uh, so it's November 8th today. It happened on October 4th. So about a month ago. And that's down in Leakey, Texas, which for those of you that are sort of familiar with South Texas or Southwest Texas, it's like 2.5 hours, I would say, northwest of San Antonio. So it's in an interesting little spot. I would definitely classify it as like the probably peak of the hill country. Like you get into that part of the state and it's some of the biggest mountains that are like, consistently around, I guess. Um, but that being said, it is a gorgeous part of the state. And honestly, the South Texas Ultra has become my favorite one in the series. Um, just because it's like it is out there, but it's just in a gorgeous part of the state. And I don't think any of the other ones, besides maybe Lake Meredith, which I haven't seen, um, stack up in such a way. So, yeah, we hold it on um, a ranch down there, and it's really an interesting little course. A lot of it is just old Jeep roads and ATV trails, and then there is some sparse bits of single track. But the start and finish line is really fun because it's on a pretty much decommissioned runway uh, for airplanes. And so it's in this cool little valley. And I told the ranch owner this year, I was like, man, if you decided to mow the entire runway, we could host like 5,000 people out here and have the biggest race in South Texas. Um, but that's a fun one. We saw some really, really fast times this this year. Um, Alex Walker, she came out and absolutely crushed the 50K and I believe set an overall course record. So not just a women's course record, but she broke the overall course record. I think you'd have to double check me on that. Um, but it was a really cool fight to the end. she and this other guy were sort of head to head through. Oh, so the course setup is for the 50K is three 17K loops. So, um, interestingly, I had to change up part of the course. It used to be we call it a 17K. It's really like 16 and change. I had to change up part of the course to where it made it almost a perfect 50K over the course of, this new change I had to make because there was standing water on the course that was probably 2.5 feet deep for more than 200 yards. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to save people from having to trudge through the water like, 6 times total over the course of 50K and have wet feet. I figured that made it a little bit more enjoyable, but some people were like, that would have been fine. It would have been fun. Um, but yeah, it's the 50K is three 17K loops. She and this Alex, she was battling it out with this guy the whole time, and then finally they they go into their last loop, and the guy has maybe 30 seconds on her at this point. And I'm like, Alex, hawk him down. And sure enough, she comes in, an hour or so later uh and wins the thing. So that was a fun one. Um yeah, just a little bit. It's probably the most low key of the four races. It's not as much participation, but it's in a gorgeous part of the state. And what's fun too about that one is that the landowners for the ranch, they encourage, and we encourage that people come and camp out the night before. And so, people will pull up in their RVs, set up their tents, whatever, in preparation for race morning. And part of that is because there's for sure limited, uh, like places to sleep in that little town. So, just adds to the vibe, adds to the fun. It's a fun one.
Yeah, ultra camping is its own beast. I've been there. It has to be it must be experienced.
Yes.
But now really the whole purpose behind this series is the Big Texas Ultra. And, you know, venue change this year, out of your control. Let's talk about this new hopefully temporary
Yeah.
venue for the championship.
Yeah, so to give some context, some historical context, um, earlier in the year, uh, Briston he was the guy that was normally in charge of getting venues for our races, but he handed that responsibility off to me earlier in the year. Um, so he had actually gotten with Lake Georgetown, which is where we normally host the race, which is honestly a perfect venue because it's uh we can make a 50K loop out of Lake Georgetown's trails plus a little road addition, and it has perfect like trailhead placements to where we can easily place aid stations all the way around the course. So that makes it really runner friendly and spectator friendly because people can follow their people around and hop to aid station via highway, and it's just a fun venue. Um, so, anyways, earlier in the year, Briston got with the park and was like, uh, you know, did these dates sound fine? Everything seemed like it was gonna be good to go. But we apparently didn't need to apply for a permit uh until like June or July. So June or July rolls around and we go to, apply for everything, and it becomes known to us, or we find out that they're doing trail maintenance and trailhead maintenance to all of the places that we would normally place our aid stations on the weekend of our planned race. And so we've already had, the Big Texas registration open for a number of months at this point. We've got hundreds of signups. So we're like, well, we got to find a new place. So I, we tried working with them as much as possible because we really didn't want to have to change it from like the Georgetown area just because we do have a lot of local signups and people are already planning. Like, hey, I'm already going to book my lodging for this area, and I'm I'm only planning on driving this much distance. So we tried as much as we could to work with Lake Georgetown. Like, is there any workaround that we can keep this date? And it just ended up working. It did not end up working out. We tried the same thing with the city of Georgetown, and kind of same deal. They just weren't super receptive to the idea uh, that late in the year. So um, one of the venues I really like, and the venue that we ended up going with, is the one we use for our Desert Wolf race. So that and the other part to that is it's only about an hour and a half or an hour and 20 minutes, 15 minutes difference between Georgetown and then Johnson City, which is like south west of Austin. So we wanted to keep it somewhat close, also somewhat central to the state because, that's kind of the whole point is that the Big Texas Ultra centers around the capital, Austin, and that's sort of central to the state, so everyone can get there a little bit more easily. Um, so this venue is called Flat Creek Crossing Ranch, and then we also, for the Desert Wolf, we would use part of the neighboring state park, which is the Pedernales Falls State Park, and we would, use some of their trails. So I get on uh, our mapping tool and I map out like a 50K route. And this is literally only like September um, when we're finalizing all this stuff. Or it might have been a little earlier than that, maybe late August. And we end up being able to make a perfect 50K out of it with plenty of aid station stops. And I get with both the park and the ranch and get everything finalized. And we send it out to all the people. And as you can imagine, some weren't happy with the venue change, but honestly, there was nothing we could do. And to make it happen on the day, this was like the best option that we had. Um, and honestly, I think it's going to be just as fun of a loop the way we have it constructed. There is some out and back sections, but we we had to work with what we had in the time frame that we had. So it is what it is. But yeah, everything's culminating here in a week. I gotta get out there and course mark. Probably starting Tuesday, just because it is 31 miles of course marking. Um, and we're looking forward to a really, really fun championship. And we've got like 120 or 130 people in the 50K, so it's gonna be massive when that kicks off. And got a lot of good volunteers. Looks like Pickle Juice is gonna come out again and do an aid station. Um, just gonna be a fun year.
Yeah, I'm excited to come down and see the race. So I'll be there
Yeah,
in person, capturing stuff,
yeah, it's gonna be
maybe
good.
sneaking in some interviews with folks. But what are you most excited for this year at the Big Texas Ultra Championship?
Um, I think we as a company are starting to hit our stride with um like our social media and just our presence in the running community. And I think having such a big event as close to Austin as it is gonna garner a lot of attention for the race. So that hopefully like next year and the years following it um is popularized to the point where like we have full fields, and then hopefully someday we have so many people in like the 100K open plus the 100K championship that we can become a qualifier for some of the bigger races out west.
Mhm.
um that's kind of always been the goal, that's always been the vision, so hopefully that comes true. And I think on a smaller scale, my what I'm most excited about is um, just having another great race. We've had a lot of really good races this year. Had a lot of adversity this year in terms of weather and just moving stuff around. And so far, I'm not trying to jinx anything, but it looks like this next weekend is going to be gorgeous and kind of the perfect day for some fast running. Um, I'm excited too to personally explore some of the trails on the state park side that I haven't seen that we are using. I think that's gonna be fun and it'll just, something a little different. Um, so yeah, it's gonna be a blast. I'm ready.
Yeah, and this is something I don't know if I've ever thrown around with you, but I think there's potential for since the 100K is essentially like a long trail championship. If you were to make a short trail championship with like qualifiers in the race series for those shorter distances, and then you could have a shorter one of the shorter races at the championship be a
Yeah, that's
short
a great
course
idea.
championship just
Right.
to diversify.
No, absolutely. Yeah, so like we already have our 15K normally. So maybe doing like something like that where if you do, when the some of the middle, probably the middle distances, not the shortest at every race, because we normally have a 5K at the shortest
Yeah.
as the shortest distance. So if it were like the 10K plus at all the races, yeah, that could be
Yeah, it'd be
sweet.
like a sub ultra distance,
Yeah.
whatever y'all y'all thought of. And I've always appreciated how, even though you faced still adversity this year, races were still had to be put on. Like for example, Chupacabra, how many
Oh,
different places
did I
do
try
you
and
have to work
find?
with?
Yeah,
Yes.
I probably made that that day that we found out that we weren't going to be able to do it out at Quana, um, at Copper Breaks. I don't know. Between that day and then finding the Wichita Falls venue, I probably made like 50, 60 phone calls to different ranches and venues. And the crazy thing is like it's some of those others probably could have worked out and we probably could have, done a venue other than the 5K loop, but there's like little factors that would take away from each to not make them possible. And so it got to the point where it was like, all right, we have this place that's literally like good to go and we're a week out. Let's just make a decision so that the people that are running it have the uh you know are aware that all right, it's going to be here. I can now change my plan entirely and focus on this new venue and prepare travel, prepare all the people that are going with me, et cetera, et cetera. Um, yeah, so I mean, it this year was funny. I think I don't think every year will be like this, but as I've said ever since like the West Texas Ultra, which was kind of the first one in a slew. It was just a bad, not a bad, but it was just a crazy spring and summer in terms of weather. Uh, what I've been saying since then is we are an outdoor sport. We have an outdoor business. We're gonna face the elements literally every single time. So that's, we're not gonna be able to skirt around that in any way, which is fine. We'll deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what how the saying goes is no such thing as bad weather, just bad preparation or
Yeah,
bad
there you go.
gear.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Yeah, and then
um,
that's the other great thing about like trail runners, um, and just the running community in general, but definitely more like trail runners, ultra runners, is people will show up and show out when you don't expect it. And I think it's because like we genuinely care about the sport and we care about participating and getting the most out of ourselves. So it's just so cool being a part of all of it. You know?
oh yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Asher, for coming on and giving me part of your day to talk about the Big Texas Ultra and the series in general. I mean, I'm really excited to be down there and see what it's like. Get inspired because I'm currently not able to run right now.
Hmm.
Just been biking a lot and
Becoming a biking
but
fiend.
yes, the bike legs, that's what I'm calling it.
Bike legs.
Um but yeah, those listening, if you haven't followed Texas Outlaw Running by now, I mean, I mention them pretty much almost every episode, if not every other episode. So really great company here. You know, by now I could safely say, biggest company in the state of Texas in terms of volume of races. So if you're anywhere in the state, you can find a Texas Outlaw Running race
Yeah.
probably within a couple hours or of you. Uh, a
Yeah,
stretch, maybe 4 hours. Like for
yeah,
those folks really far west.
right.
But
Yeah,
but
come
yeah,
hang
they're
out.
coming though.
Come hang out with us. If you haven't been to one of our races, or if you haven't been to one of our races, come hang out with us. It's always a good time. Um, I love, love, love being a part of this community, and I think it's growing in a really good way, which is fun to see.
Mhm.
So, yep,
Yes, I guess I'll see you next weekend down in Johnson City.
sounds good, Philip. Thanks for having me on.